This is Falcons owner Arthur Blank. He faces a tough decision after another bad loss to the Falcons on Sunday and no sign that things are getting any better soon. What's the future of Dan Quinn? We'll try to decide next on AJC Falcons News Now.
This is AJC Falcons News Now, sponsored by Miller Lite. Here are your hosts, Brandon Adams and former Atlanta Falcon Chuck Smith.
This is not the conversation the Falcons fans want to be having today, but it is the discussion we are forced to have nonetheless. Hello, everybody. My name is Brandon Adams. This is the former Atlanta Falcon Chuck Smith. Welcome into AJC Falcons News Now, sponsored by Miller Lite. Chuck, yesterday was not good for the Falcons. I mean, not good at all. And the opponent, Tennessee Titans, we said this on Friday, and I stand by what I said. I thought coming into this game, there were plenty of reasons why you would assume that the Titans had more problems than the Falcons do. But boy, Tennessee came down here and really got fat off Atlanta. You got to start with this right here. What a bad game for the Falcons.
Well, it was a bad game, and I guess when you look at Tennessee, what happened to them against Jacksonville, they had no life on offense. Their defense was suspect, but then they come here to Atlanta, and, I mean, let's be real. Marcus Mariota looked like the great Marcus Mariota. Yeah. It was quite surreal to watch this team that was dead literally the week before come in here and beat a team that talked about they were ready to take that next step, and it didn't happen.
Yeah, so obviously we're going to get to the what this means for Dan Quinn. We're going to kind of do all that. We're obviously going to give a lot of room for you all to comment on this here today, but I think you got to say a couple things before you even kind of get to that point. Before you even get to what the ramifications of the loss are, I think you have to talk a little bit about just what it was in itself. I mean, Chuck, Tennessee's not that kind of team. I mean, You mentioned Marcus Mariota. He's definitely not that kind of quarterback. You know, to think that the Falcons' offense was stymied as much as it was, to think that, Tennessee was able to come in here and kind of, I saw wide receivers running free. Rough day for Trufant, for instance, and some of that kind of stuff. I mean, I was actually at the game yesterday, and the one thing I heard from a lot of Falcons fans walking out, and they were saying this kind of half joking, half serious, was, man, Tennessee Titans, even they're talking trash to us now. Even they're coming in here and, kind of getting the big head about what goes on at Mercedes-Benz Stadium. I think the opponent on the other side of the field is just as much a part of the story as the Falcons on performance here. Because, I mean, I don't think anybody expects that Tennessee's the kind of team that's supposed to be able to come in here and kind of have that kind of success where really they were in control of the game for virtually the entirety of it.
Well, they were. They completely dominated the Falcons. They came out right out on offense where no one thought that the Tennessee Titans could throw the ball. Let's be real. Mm-hmm. No one thought that. They came right out and hit Falcons right in the mouth and threw a long touchdown. And I think the biggest thing from the Falcons when it comes to the start of that game is the fact that it was another bust. Trufant playing man-to-man. The guy, Davis, I think, goes inside, catches the ball. But the problem is not that he caught the ball. The problem is that Trufant took a bad angle. He gave the guy a lane to run in. Terrible. So those are the kind of things that Coach Quinn talked about that can't happen. And again, let's talk about this again. He's a veteran.
Yeah.
That's the biggest thing for me. He's a veteran. And those are the kind of things that, it's going to be hard for teams to respect the Falcons when they give up such easy plays.
Okay, so let me run through a few of these. You can mention the Trufant stuff, the bad angle. You had tackling problems in your secondary a little bit yesterday, too. You have Alex Mack. And if there's ever a veteran, Mack is the veteran. And, listen, I'm usually the last one to kind of get scandalized by the 15-yard play stuff. I just think that physicality is part of football. I think that aggressive stuff to the echo of the whistle is part of football. But if you go back and rewatch, the Mack 15-yard penalty, you heard the official say, you can't do that. I mean, when you got your elbow down there, kind of giving some extracurricular stuff like that, you probably can't do that. So it's Trufant, who you think is one of your solutions on defense.
Right.
It's Mack, who's clearly one of your leaders. I mean, does this go back to Quinn? Is this an example of those guys not being as focused as they should be? Do you blame Quinn when veteran players like that mess up to the degree that some of the ones we just mentioned did?
Well, you know what? I blame each half. I think it's 50-50 because as a player, you know that you can't do it. Your coach brought in referees the week before to try to help, and at the end of the day, you can't do it. But from Dan Quinn's standpoint, you got the message that has to get through to these players. So to me, it's 50-50, but there's no question that there's got to be a solution. I don't know what that is because they've tried everything. They brought in referees. They had a new shirt slogan last week.
I'm tired of the T-shirts. I'm tired of the slogans of the T-shirts. I can't do the slogans and T-shirts anymore. I just can't. I can't.
Yeah, well, it's just hard because you're responsible for the entire unit. And Dan Quinn, it's just right now it's falling back.
All right, I'm going to take a lot of comments here. I'm going to ask you a direct question as well. Let me kind of remind you kind of who we are, what we're doing. We do this every Monday and Friday at 1 p.m. It's AJC Falcons News Now. It's sponsored by Miller Lite, the official beer of the Atlanta Falcons. It tastes great. It's just 96 calories. And you know what? If you're doing a tailgate yesterday, if you're watching the late games after you got back home from Mercedes-Benz Stadium, you're relaxing Sunday afternoon with a little Miller Lite, that's never a bad choice. So here is what's facing Falcons fans. I'm actually curious to hear what they say in the comment section. Do you feel that Dan Quinn can fix what's broken with Atlanta? Because something's broken. Quinn right now is the guy in charge of it. Do you think he's capable of fixing what's broken with Atlanta?
I think he can fix what's happening on the offensive side of the ball. You know, to me, the protection. I think he can help, you know, as far as talking to Dirk Cutter, maybe about opening it up, creating some different things on offense. Defensively, I don't think so. I think you got Trufant, you got Oliver, who yesterday turned down a couple tackles. You know what that means? Mm-hmm. You had a chance to hit Henry, and tough. You turned it down. Now, in football terms, that means you didn't have the effort. I'm just going to say that. You didn't give the kind of effort to make the tackle. Mm-hmm. I think defensively, you're limited on the defensive line. I think you got two guys in Tack McKinley and Vic Beasley that are role players. And it's time to admit it, and it's a fact. The two first-rounders are role players that can't play every down. You can't fix the defense right now. You got to go back to the drawing board. And I hate to say this after so many years, you got to draft defensive line and cornerback again. So I think offense, yeah, but defense, no.
What's so frustrating about this is that, you know, Vrabel on the other side makes the biggest coaching blunder of the game. I mean, we're going to criticize
that was crazy.
Dan Quinn a little bit because this is, you know, obviously a Falcon-centric show. Mm-hmm. But to think of that Vrabel up 14, going for it 4th and 1, I mean, there's a really good chance the Falcons don't even get the ball 3 times. If you go up 17 right there, there's a chance Atlanta doesn't even get 3 more possessions. So he foregoes the field goal to go for it on 4th down. Atlanta does get the stop right there, and you still can't do anything to convert that into momentum. I mean, that's madness.
Situational football at its worst. I was shocked watching what I saw Vrabel do. Terrible decision. I mean, you have a chance to make it, a 3-score game, right? You have a chance. And he goes for it. And then I'm like, wow, he gave the Falcons a little life.
Absolutely. And credit the Falcons for coming up with the stop right there.
Yeah, and no question about that. But Vrabel, terrible decision.
Yeah. So
absolutely terrible decision.
So I think it's really interesting the way that you kind of cut this in half. That, you know, from a leadership standpoint, maybe you can influence some of what Cutter's doing offensively. But the defense, this is Quinn's baby. He said he wanted that defense. He even went so far during the offseason to say he wanted to get his hands on Vic Beasley and do some instruction with him in kind of a one-on-one basis. I mean, right now, a lot of those words just seem like empty promises. So we're going to talk a lot about this throughout the program. We'll hear from Dan Quinn on this. We'll hear from Matt Ryan, what he had to say. We'll talk about the big elephant in the room for a lot of these NFL teams that are struggling right now and thinking about what the future of their organization might be, one of the big names that might possibly be out there. We'll do a lot of that here today on AJC Falcons News Now, sponsored by Miller Lite. But the main thing we want to make sure we do is obviously give you plenty of time to weigh in for yourself in the comment section. You can tell us what you think here. Christopher Brown says, of Quinn, move him to D.C., get a coach like Tomlin. It is kind of funny. You know, Mike Tomlin is almost for sure on his way out in Pittsburgh. And y'all hate to say it, but the Tomlin record, as of late, has not been great with the Steelers there either. But it certainly seems like he's on his way out, wearing out his welcome when it comes to the situation in Pittsburgh. It is kind of funny. You do hear some people say, hey, what about Tomlin for Atlanta? What about Tomlin for Atlanta? I will say that's not my first choice. We'll get to who my first choice would be if this is a move that Atlanta eventually wants to make in a moment. But it's also kind of funny. The commenter says, move Quinn to D.C. You just laid it out pretty, I thought, effectively, that part of the issue here is not Quinn's overall leadership of the organization. It's his technique, instruction, scheme work as the defensive coordinator. This team right now has an issue at head coach and seemingly an issue with its defensive coordinator as well.
Yeah, and it has a little issue with defensive line, too, because Coach Quinn said he was going to do what? I'm going to oversee the development of the D-line. I understand that. But you can't do it all. That's why great folks that are successful hire what? People to help them.
Yeah.
And that's one of the oldest practices in business as we know it. You got to trust the people around you. So, to me, Hugh's going to have – it's going to be a struggle, but to me, the development of the young guys is just very disappointing.
Nathan Knox wants to bring back Jimmy Johnson. That's quite an interesting name to hear. Dwayne says, let's see what shoes Julio Jones is wearing next week. That's super important. Obviously, he's frustrated with some of the sideshow stuff that's been going on. Ryan Schneck says, weak front seven and bad offensive line makes all the fantasy football players not look that good. It's not just one guy's fault. Ryan can play, Julio can play, but Thomas Dimitroff has put together a 500 roster over the last 12 years or so. Stop saying we have the talent. here's the thing for me, though. At this point in time, it's not a debate of do you have the talent or not. You paid all these guys. This is your team one way or another. So, the reevaluation of Julio now, you just signed him. Reevaluation of Ryan now, he's under contract for a while. Ridley, you got first-round money invested in. Devontae Freeman, you paid. You got defensive guys that you paid. So, you can question Thomas Dimitroff if you want to, but the rehashing of the personnel, this point in time, this is your team, and the results are going to speak for themselves. But you got these guys locked up; they're not going anywhere.
No, they're not.
I'm talking about the players.
No, you're right. They're not going again. But to me, I agree with who was that? Ryan. I agree with what you're saying, Ryan. Because are they as good as we say they are? That's the thing about it. Because potential is only realized if you actually do something. Mm-hmm. So we keep saying, "Oh, we got great potential." Oh, this year. So to me, the players, number one, have to step up. Or you're going to continue to question. Because how can any of our fans or viewers that are watching now, how can you not question Tack? How can you not? I mean, you understand what I'm saying? So it is what it is.
Well, let me have the other side of the ball for a moment because, I feel like you feel good about Julio Jones. I feel like you do feel good about Ridley, although they can't seem to get the football now. Hooper, the tight end, you feel good. But you said something, I guess it was last Monday, and it stuck with me. And watching the game yesterday, you can't help but notice. Ryan is hurried every single time. Even when he's not pressured, he senses the pressure's on its way. And I don't know. I mean, are you just doomed to fail if you can't find an offensive line that works better together? Would a more quick strike offense work here? That's what a lot of these guys, you think about Kingsbury in Arizona and some of those guys, they're trying to bring the quick strike offense to the NFL, kind of matriculating its way from the high school ranks up to the NFL. Would Atlanta benefit from something like that? Is the issue they're trying to take play calls that just take too long to develop? Because, watching what's going on, it's obvious, even with all the former first-round picks on this Falcons offensive line, it is obvious that Ryan just feels hurried on every single throw. What can you do about it?
I can tell you what we can do about it now. This is going to be kind of somewhat, I wouldn't call it controversial.
Yeah.
That's why right now the Dak Prescotts are winning. That's why right now the Baker Mayfields, the young quarterbacks, the Lamar Jacksons are winning, because in this new era, the defensive players have become supercharged, absolutely weapons.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that because I played defense, but the new era, the Von Millers, the J.J. Watts, these guys are absolutely animals. So now what you have is you got quarterbacks that got to be able to run. You got quarterbacks that got to make moves in the pocket. Now, I'm not saying that's what the Falcons need to do when it comes to Matt Ryan. I'm just saying, just like dinosaurs, there was an evolution of what?
Okay.
Of the species. So the evolution of the quarterback species has become Dak, has become Jackson, has become, Daniel Jones in New York. Guys that can move around in the pocket. There's no question that Matt Ryan has some challenges right now.
J-Rock says we need a hungry, fresh, and up-and-coming coach who isn't trying to be friends with the players. Let me deal with that last part. Do you think that – because, listen, Chuck, you played in the league. I've been watching the league my entire life. We know how this works. When one kind of coach goes sour, there's always a temptation to bring in the exact opposite kind of coach. I do think of Quinn as being a little bit more of a player-friendly coach. I'm obviously not behind closed doors in Flowery Branch. Who knows how true that really is? That's the way that I think of it, much the same way that Jay does. I don't know that I'd say it quite the same way, but I do think of Quinn as more of a player-friendly coach. Do you think that some of the Falcons' issues is that Quinn is not enough of a disciplinarian in their mind, that he is a little bit too much in the brotherhood with them as opposed to the, for lack of a better phrase, father figure looking down on them?
Oh, that's good. That's a good point. I'll tell you what I think. And I've been in these locker rooms. Let me tell you what Dan is. Dan is, I'm going to let you be a pro kind of guy. I'm going to continue to let you become a pro until you can't become a pro. You know that makes sense?
Yeah.
But in this new era, these young guys are absolutely needing leadership. These guys are, from the time they were young, they were told that I'm the best. Do what you want to do. In the NFL, it has to do with me. It has to do with respect. You have to ultimately respect, but there's got to be a little bit of that fear factor in. Belichick has it. Mike Tomlin used to have it. You understand what I'm saying? But to me, I like the Belichick motto, but I think it's a fine line because it's a young guys league.
Yeah.
A lot of we got coaches now that are younger than players. You know what I'm saying? McVay, I mean, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, young guys.
But I do believe that you got to have not a dictator, but you need somebody that they respect that continuously has won. I'm big on that. I don't want a new guy, but I want somebody that's won. But I do believe we need a kind of a leader.
Lance Hall says that he's a little down on Matt Ryan based on his comment. And being there in the stadium yesterday was kind of interesting because I tried to take the tact on Friday, and in retrospect, it doesn't look very smart. I'll certainly grant you this. But I tried to take the tact on Friday that, Tennessee's a winnable game. You're on the road at Houston after that. That's a tougher step up in weight class, but it's still somewhat of a winnable game. It's kind of funny, though, to go to be in Mercedes-Benz on Sunday, late arriving crowd for the most part, but how little optimism there seemed to be even before kickoff. And that's the thing I think the Falcons got to be really careful with right now is one way or another, either with the guys you have in place right now or with some sort of personnel move you make going forward, you've got to send a strong, emphatic message that, there's just a restlessness among the fan base right now that you want to give them an opportunity to maintain their belief in this nucleus. Does that make sense? It was amazing to me how much negativity there already was in the building Sunday before the game kicked off. And I think from the Falcons standpoint, they've got to speak to those fans who are, not only are they questioning Quinn right now, they're a little bit questioning of the nucleus that we think this organization has in place. Quarterback throwing to receivers, pass catching options. That to me is the identity of this team. You got people in our comment section right now, they're even questioning that.
Yeah, you know what? It's always been kind of like that, B. Let's be real. Since the Super Bowl, we lost the Super Bowl, there's always been this little cloud that's hung over from a standpoint of the fan base, right? Because when we lost that game, people automatically were saying, what, Dan can't do this, Matt Ryan can't finish. So I understand how the fans feel, but I also see from a Falcon standpoint, those guys in the locker room at this point, you know what they're saying? And I heard what they're saying during the interviews. Man, we can't care what the fans say. We just got to stick together inside, for ourselves. But the fan base, they're reacting to what the guys are doing on the field. And this is a fan base, remember, their expectations. At the end of the day, we got to always remember this. This fan base wants to win a Super Bowl, and they got close. So anything less than that, they're going to scrutinize. And right now, they have a lot to scrutinize.
All right, we're going to get back to your comments. Going to do a lot more of those. Let me tell folks about this really cool offer, though. Obviously, the people that watch this show every day are big believers in the Falcons. They want Atlanta to do well. They know one day things are going to be better than they were yesterday against the Tennessee Titans. And it's in that spirit that we offer this great, great deal for you. How about this officially branded Falcons cooler? A great way to hang out and enjoy your tailgate, or if you're, doing some outdoor stuff this time of year, it's still really hot, you're out by the pool. Hopefully your pool's still open, you're still taking advantage of that. This cooler's great. Falcons logo on the front, and it's a special thank you gift courtesy of the AJC when you become an AJC subscriber. Right now there's a lot of interesting stuff coming out of the Falcons locker room. You want to make sure you get all the coverage that's out there, whether it be Steve Hummer, great column yesterday, D. Orlando Ledbetter, really good coverage that D-Led provides all the time. The way to get the most in-depth Falcons coverage to become an AJC subscriber. Here's the website to go to. It's subscribe.ajc.com/Falcons News Now. Subscribe.ajc.com/Falcons News Now. There's a variety of choices. You can be simply an e-paper subscriber. You can be e-paper plus home delivery. You can be 7-day home delivery and the e-paper there as well, so you can read it by the kitchen table or on your commute if you're not the one driving.
I'm a home delivery
You
kind
like the
of guy.
home delivery?
I'm old school. I like to read that paper.
I like to hold the paper in my hand there as well. The point is, though, there's a lot of different choices for you, and for each one of them, as a special thank you, you can get the Falcons branded cooler, but you got to go to the website, subscribe.ajc.com/Falcons News Now. All right, let me get a few more of these comments here. Roderick Thrive Under Pressure Love says, we got to get it together. It's still too early. Now, it's interesting to hear Roderick say that because that is kind of obviously out there that we're only at the first quarter pole of the season. There's still 12 games left. Is the negativity that exists in the comment section today, is that a reflection of Falcons fans pushing the panic button too early? I would have certainly said that after last week's game against the Colts. I don't find myself trying to sing that song quite as much after this one with the Titans, but it's obviously at least a valid point of debate. Do you agree with the commenter that there's still time to focus and there's still time to turn this season around?
You got 12 games left. There is time to turn it around, but expectations. You want to be rewarded, right? Yeah. You want to be rewarded for all the contracts you see your guys get. You want to win games, but I do think it's not too early. No, it's not, because the mistakes you're making now, that you usually are who you are, right? Yeah. If you're a mistake-filled team, you can keep making mistakes, like we saw last game. But I do think it's a little bit early. But one more loss and the season's about to be over.
Craig Green says it just comes down to execution, not a play call, not a mental block about Super Bowl 51. Execute better, and we're 2-2 and worse. 2-2 at worst, Craig says. It's kind of interesting you say that because I was thinking about the turnover situation for Atlanta. Ryan fumbled yesterday. Atlanta's turnover differential is rough right now. I think Ryan himself is responsible for 7 turnovers of his own, and Atlanta's not forcing very many right now. But if you look at stats year over year, and I love this kind of stuff, this stuff does not stay very continuous from season to season. For instance, if you look at the teams that have the worst turnover differential through 8 games, the halfway point in the season, for the most part, they don't necessarily stay that way for the final 8 games. But at some point in time, if nothing else, the history of the league would suggest the turnover margin is going to stabilize at some point in time. However, you think about yesterday's game. I mean, there was such a gap in performance between the Titans and the Falcons. I don't think that Ryan's fumble cost you that game yesterday, nor do I think forcing just one turnover from the Titans would have helped you that much. Tennessee went out there and owned that game from the get-go. So even if you execute better, avoid the mistake, avoid the penalties, avoid the turnover, I mean, Tennessee went out and proved yesterday. It's just, at least for that particular Sunday, just better than you are.
All right, there's no other way to say it. Let me just look directly into our viewers. The Falcons were terrible. I mean, all the things that we can talk about, execution, we can talk about turnovers. The Falcons absolutely got beat down yesterday. Yesterday, let's call a spade a spade. Trufant got absolutely embarrassed, right? So that is execution. Their guys were better than ours now. Now the question is, can our guys get better? Can Trufant get better? Isaiah Oliver, I don't know what else to tell you. Yeah. What else can Q and him say, right? The excuses of what I saw yesterday where he did not go up and hit Derrick Henry, I'm not going to say he's scared. I'm just going to say he was scared. So you got to come up and put your face in there if you're a Falcon. But right now, you are who you are. And this is one thing, B, and this is why I don't like building a team around offense. This is what I learned from a great coach, and he kind of came with some controversy, Rex Ryan, earlier this week with Baker Mayfield. I know, right?
I do like him, though.
Hold on. All right, hold on. You made me laugh. But a team that is built around offensive players is finesse. I want my stars to be Aaron Donald. I want my stars to be Von Miller. I love Julio, but when your team is built offensively, you're going to be a little more finesse soft overall. I want a team that's built around sledgehammers on defense, and right now we got good players. We do not have a legendary cornerstone Aaron Donald, Von Miller, Fletcher Cox on our defense, and it's showing right now. That's how I feel.
Let me hear Dan Quinn on this a little bit. Here is some from Dan Quinn yesterday talking about where Atlanta goes from here after obviously a rough game for the Falcons.
It is a tough loss, and we're as disappointed as our fans are. This is a tough loss and a team that has a lot of pride and had the preparation right to go, and we haven't delivered on our performances. Told them we've been through one quarter, and where we sit is at 1-3, not acceptable for the standards that we've set for one another, and so we intend on getting that fixed. It'll be work to do that, but that's what we intend on doing.
So obviously Dan Quinn's not happy with what he hears there. They're going to go back to work and try to fix this kind of stuff. And what I said in this comment section before, is this the kind of thing that Falcons players have a tendency to turn out after a while, tune out after a while. You've kind of been in locker rooms where seasons got off to poor starts. Sometimes you guys turn it around. Sometimes maybe things didn't get better. But what's it like being a player on the receiving end of the kinds of messages you just heard from Quinn right there of generally saying that he's as disappointed as anybody, they're going to get back to work and try to fix this?
Okay, let me just sum it up like this. You get out your car from the game, you go right into the house. You come right out the house, you go right into practice. Yeah. You ain't feeling like going out to eat. Everything's different. It is what it is. Yeah. You feel absolutely terrible, especially when you get booed at the bins. Those kind of things. So that's the kind of culture it is for a player. You know what I'm saying? You hate it. But the only way you fix it is you got a ball. Yeah. But right now, it's an ugly situation as a player. It's no worse feeling. You ain't trying to be seen in public. You ain't trying to go hang out at Piedmont Park right now. It just is what it is. You at the house.
That is probably true. Let me let you hear one more from Dan Quinn on the struggles from yesterday.
Well, I would say radical, meaning like our intensity or preparation part. I wouldn't say radical, but I would say is, when you're not performing well, you look at everything. And whatever that's role or featuring players or, however you need to address it, you do, because you can't have the one-offs, except for, other than this play or, in between the 20, all those things are just excuses to me. So we'll make sure that we dig in hard to the areas that need it, and we're nowhere near the team we can be, and we're pissed about where we're at after the first quarters, like the fans are. So the good thing, we're the ones that get to fix it, and we certainly intend on doing that.
J-Rock in the comment section says, look at coaching. Rolonzo Bruce says, coach catchphrase has got to go. I know for a lot of fans, they feel like they've heard these kinds of things from Quinn before.
Yeah, and at some point you got to play because this ain't college football. That to me, that's something for college football. At some point, the guys got to step up. But I'm not big on the coaches speak. But what I would like to see the Falcons have done last week, instead of coming out with more, coaches speak or slogans, go behind and have a closed door meeting. Don't not just tell the truth Mondays. Tell it how it is Mondays. Yeah. That's what I want to hear. Tell it how it is Mondays. But you talked about something early, and I want to rewind. We're talking about the locker room, and I want to say this because we've been talking about this last couple weeks. Now, here's where the Falcons are, B. The Falcons are in a situation, okay, we're losing. Now, we keep saying, what kind of player are we? We're going to learn a lot about us in the locker room. Well, I already know what they're like. You got two different kind of guys. You got dogs, and you got regular guys. Dogs in this game, you know what they do when they're down? They're going to keep throwing blows. They're going to keep fighting. They're going to keep coming. But in the NFL,
what's his name from the Titans was talking about last week?
Right, yeah. So there's a misconception about the National Football League that everybody's that way. You got players, when they lose, they play down to the level of what the team is doing. They don't have the capability of taking it to another level, whether they're winning or losing. Great players who compete, they're going to compete and give 100% no matter what happens. The question the Falcons have now is, are you going to be a dog and compete no matter if we lose every game or win every game? And make sure you're not one of those guys who plays down to the level of the climate of the locker room and the team.
That's really interesting. So it's AJC Falcons News Now, sponsored by Miller Lite. That's Chuck Smith, the former Falcon. My name is Brandon Adams. It's good to have you with us, and it's great to have Miller Lite as a part of the program here as well. They are the official beer of the Atlanta Falcons. It tastes great. It's just 96 calories. I hope you will check that out because it's a great way to, this Sunday you're watching the Falcons and the Texans from over in Houston. You got folks there around your basement, whatever. Enjoy a little Miller Lite as you celebrate your game day. Always a great choice, the official beer of the Atlanta Falcons. All right, let me get into now what I believe is going to be a little bit of a hot button topic, and I'll be very candid about my feelings on this. Let me start with Matt Miller, who covers the NFL draft for Bleacher Report. He tweets out this weekend, this is before yesterday, he tweets out this weekend, just got this text from a front office buddy. Here's the quote from Matt Miller from Bleacher Report's front office buddy. Quote, "There's going to be a race to fire NFL head coaches this season because everyone wants to get in on Oklahoma coach Lincoln Riley as early as possible." That is Matt Miller saying that. Now, let me first of all say my thoughts on the quote and the tweet before we get on anything else. This is the kind of tweet, and you see this in the media all the time, where it's just plausible enough to be retweeted, right? I mean, you can't really say it's not true. It's hard to really prove that it is true. The actual text of the statement doesn't really mean anything, and I'm sure Matt Miller gets 10,000 retweets. It's the kind of thing that sort of sounds true, so therefore it gets retweeted. There's not really a whole lot of reckoning if it's kind of hard to prove that it's untrue, in other words. But let's assume for a moment, let's take Matt Miller at his word. Should the Falcons be in on this race for Oklahoma coach Lincoln Riley? I have a feeling I know what you're going to say.
You sure?
I think so. Based on what you said a moment ago, I think I know what you're going to say.
Well, I'm going to take Matt Miller at not his word.
Okay.
I don't believe that there are general managers that are giving him information. See, here's my thing. He's not just saying one or two.
Yeah.
He's throwing out multiple sources. In the NFL, you know what those guys are focused on right now? Winning games. So to me, when you have a guy like this comes out and says, somewhat what he hears, that's about sensationalism, in my opinion. Because, again, I've been at the board. I'm friends with those guys to this day. General managers aren't in the business, especially the multiple general managers, but back to Lincoln Riley.
Yeah.
Hey, my thing I like about him, when he becomes a head coach, and I'm not getting caught up in what Matt Miller said. To me, though, I just like the offensive guy if it was for the Falcons.
Yeah.
For me, I want a guy that comes in here, because this team right now is built to win with passing and throwing the ball. It is what it is.
Yeah.
You've talked about that a lot. That's the only reason I'd like to see Lincoln Riley, but I don't get caught up in the Matt Millers, but it is cute, Matt. It is cute, but I don't believe it.
Because I'm actually a little bit – the reason I'm a little bit surprised is because you just made a pretty impassioned case for being a physical football team. And if you bring in Lincoln Riley, you're not a physical football team. So Oklahoma's not physical. Right. I mean, listen, nobody watches more college football than I do. Oklahoma's not physical. Now, they're good, but they're not physical. So if you – and it's the same way with Kingsbury with the Cardinals. He may do magic with Kyler Murray, but you're never going to be a physical team because that's not what the Big 12 plays. But Riley, man – he's gotten big stuff out of Baker Mayfield. He got a huge year to Kyler Murray. He's getting a big year out of Jalen Hurts.
Yeah.
Y'all saw Jalen Hurts at Alabama. If Jalen Hurts had stayed at Alabama, I don't care if Tua Tagovailoa had never existed. Hurts is not doing the kind of stuff in Alabama's offense that he's doing in Oklahoma's offense. If there ever was a quarterback whisperer, if there ever was an offensive savant, just a brilliant expert at designing plays, it's Lincoln Riley. You're not going to be a physical football team, and you might be downright bad defensively. You're going to score points, and right now I'm not quite so sure that's not a better alternative.
I'm not quite sure because everyone kind of looks at everything right now and, all the hype about it. But I want to prove it. I want an NFL guy. I want to find an assistant that understands the NFL game, that to me can look at a veteran in the eyes and say, hey, this is what you need to do. Who can talk to Matt Ryan, who can talk to Julio Jones. I understand. I mean, it's going to be interesting talk, especially with, questions about Dan Quinn. But I'm more of an NFL person to go in and find one of these great assistants than the next, hot assistant.
And I want to be clear about this from a factual standpoint. There is absolutely zero evidence to suggest Atlanta's even considering this right now. Do I think it's plausible they could consider a move on Quinn before the end of the season? If there's more of what we saw on Sunday, at some point in time, you're probably going to have to. But I think that Atlanta wants to give Quinn more time for now, and certainly you don't see any, kind of real, tangible reporting that would suggest that there's any kind of strong consideration between among the Falcons to make a move on Quinn at the moment. And there's nothing linking Riley to the Falcons beyond that. There's nothing whatsoever. However, my opinion is, if you could get Lincoln Riley, you need. If you could get a coach like that, who is a dynamic offensive mind, something that I do think would translate to the NFL level, because I do believe this organization's identity, and we have talked about this a million times, I've said this before, this organization's identity, where your money goes is where your identity exists. It's gone towards Julio, it's gone towards Ryan, first-round pick on Calvin Ridley. That is your nucleus. And right now, it's non-existent. This offense did nothing on Sunday. I think you've got to find a guy that can exploit the resources that are already in place, because Atlanta's got this stuff in place, but it's not currently being exploited. And I don't know of anyone who would be able to do that better than Riley. That's why I would favor him. If you could get him, if there is going to be a race, my suggestion would be you get into it so you can find somebody that can get the most out of Ryan and Julio while these guys are still in their prime.
See, I disagree. I want a young NFL coach who's seen the gauntlet. I want somebody who understands how to get them right, like the Sean McVays, the guys who have been around, right? So to me, a Lincoln Riley, yeah, you come in with all the hype and all the different things, but as far as the Falcons are concerned, I think they need someone, if they do bring in someone, yeah, offensive-minded, but at the end of the day, I need a winner. I need someone that can, don't worry about all the slogans, tell you this is what you're going to do.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? This is how we're going to work it. This is exactly what we're going to do. So I understand about the offensive, what the guy's done in college. That's college. I want him to go out and get a Anthony Lynn, a great, like the San Diego Chargers found. So to me, when you look at some of these coaches, there's so many young assistants in the game, but I think right now it's sexy because the college coaches are getting 50, the guys are throwing up, Lincoln Riley's are throwing up all these plays, making all these, creative offenses. But to me, I want an NFL guy, but to me, it has a lot to do with the personnel. Coach is coach, but at the end of the day, the teams with the best personnel, like the Patriots, the teams with the best personnel outside the Falcons right now are winning. But, so that's just my opinion, but I totally understand where you're coming from. I do understand.
Here's my thing right here. I'm going to write this down. Hashtag, you can't see it. Hashtag stinking for Lincoln. That's what I would do. And you mentioned these, assistant coaches. I mean, what frustrates you to no end is you had one of these dynamic offensive minds. You had Kyle Shanahan. Yeah. I know he betrayed Falcons fans near the end of the Super Bowl by not running the football. I get all of that. But you can't look at the offense for the previous 18 games and not say, man, they were setting records and they were lighting the world on fire. And now he's at San Francisco and he's doing some of that same kind of stuff right there. He's the same offensive mind. Now he's the head coach. You had the guy here. Now he's over in San Francisco, and you haven't been the same since then. Sarkisian and now Cutter.
Well, I don't know exactly what makes it happen, what changes, but I tell you this, it also it helps with having players that can ball. Daniel Jones. Yeah. Before Daniel Jones, they sucked. Eli Manning couldn't do anything. Now, after Daniel Jones, the coach looks like what? He looks like a superstar coach. So players play, coaches coach. But to me, I think coaches like Lincoln Riley get way too much credit. Way too much credit. You think Nick Saban going to win championships without them goons?
Yeah.
No. That's what he has. So for every Lincoln Riley, to me, it comes down to, like I just said, these players, but I think those guys get too much credit. But how about Daniel Jones? Wow. Now they're talking about playoffs in New York. So it has to do with the players. I don't think the coach is as important as people think only till when you start losing, then people talk about the coach.
Anthony Dickerson says we should have fired Quinn and kept Shanahan. I'm not so much saying that because, listen, it was going to be hard. If Shanahan had a chance to go be a head coach, and even after the debacle of the Super Bowl, you still felt, good about Quinn at the time. You couldn't have foresaw what's happening right now.
Well, Dan Reeves is still out. He's at the lake.
Yeah,
Lake Burton, right?
Tan, rested, and ready. Tan, rested, and ready. But, recapturing the magic that existed here in 2016, to borrow another former Falcons phrase, but to recapture that magic, it does all kind of harken back to the one schematic advantage that the Falcons have enjoyed during the Quinn era, when it was Shanahan calling the plays, more so year 2 than year 1. When it was Shanahan calling the plays, you're going out there and Ryan and him click so well, the offense just clicked so well. You haven't found that since then.
Well, I think one of the things that you really haven't found that's affected Matt Ryan, the running game.
Yeah.
How do you think Devontae Freeman earned that big money? How y'all think he got the bag, as my kids would say at home?
Right.
He got the bag because what? Shanahan ran the ball. The Falcons were successful running the ball during the Super Bowl year. So one of the things that we don't talk about enough, the Falcons have no run game. Mm-hmm. They literally, Freeman will get a nice little hit here and there. They're playing from behind, so Matt Ryan's having to throw the ball.
Yeah.
But when you're giving Shanahan a lot of credit, I think when we look back, guys like Devontae Freeman opened it up for guys like Matt Ryan. So, it's hard to throw the ball when you ain't got, but all you can do is throw the ball.
All right, so we're going to hear from Ryan in just a second. Before that, though, let me just kind of run through a bunch of comments, give folks a chance to sound off. I've obviously sounded off here for a minute, and Chuck's had his chance too. James Kelly says they didn't click so well that first year. That's true. It took them a while to Shanahan and Ryan to get going, but once they got going, they were really firing up. Jim Ballard says it's not good. The Falcons have too many good players to be this bad. We need a new offensive strategy. And I guess I kind of agree with almost everything that Jim's saying there. And I know they're not perfect defensively. You make a case that, they're worse defensively than offensively. But I do believe that by almost anyone's estimation, as a former Falcon, you may be inclined to see the best of this organization. As an Atlanta resident, I might be inclined to see the best of this organization. Certainly our audience might be inclined to see the best from the Falcons. But there's plenty of objective analysis that would have ranked the Falcons roster, if not near the top, certainly in the upper third. So it's not like this was thought to be for the start of the season. I'm not even talking about Falcons fans here. I'm talking about just like general observers of the league. This was thought to be an upper third, at least, roster in the NFL. They've got more talent than they've shown through the first 3 games, which to me means that something schematically is going wrong. Either they're just not technically sound, or they're getting out-schemed by the opposing coach. But I do put this more on the issue of how the coaches are deploying this talent more so than questioning what the talent of this team really is.
Well, I'm kind of questioning this a little bit. How do we get Julio Jones the ball? I'm still hearing this. Why? Let's go back now, and I'm going to use Antonio Brown, right? Let's use him. When he's at Pittsburgh, he's the number 1 receiver in the league. I know Atlanta, everybody wants to say that, but in my opinion, he was. How did he keep finding the ball? How did these guys, these great receivers, stealing all these guys with Minnesota find the ball? To me, it has a little bit more to do with scheme and figuring out. Because there's no way Calvin Ridley should not be getting what? He didn't hardly even see the ball.
Yeah.
Hooper has become your number 2 receiver because basically Ridley's not open and they're double covering Julio.
Yeah.
So at some point, there's got to be a scheme that works for everyone when you got it. So I'd like to see the Falcons be a lot more creative when it comes to this offense, but I'm not so sure. Somebody just said that this offensive team is better than the defense because the expectations for the defense is way higher. For the offense is way higher than the defense. True. You got an MVP and you got the best receiver in the league. So to me, those expectations are a lot, as far as the defense and offense. But I don't know. We got to hold them to the same standard.
John Show says Mike McCarthy's available. I'm not quite so sure how I'd feel about that. Glenda Ely says so disappointing the Falcons. Yeah. A lot of fans are very disappointed today, to be sure. By the way, Jeremy Stevens brings up a good point. Tampa, we'll talk more about the scores later on from yesterday. Tampa goes to L.A. and puts on a show. If there's anything that could possibly make Falcons fans feel worse, it's what happens with New Orleans, Tampa, and even Carolina. All of them
won.
I would have thought that the path to the playoff for the Falcons was easier through the division than it would be as a wild card team in the NFC, especially with the injuries to quarterback, Cam Newton at the start of the year, Drew Brees at the start of the year. I got news for you, and we'll get to this later on. Even without Drew Brees, I think the Saints are still one of the 2 or 3 best teams in the NFC, even without Drew Brees.
They got a defense.
You could play with Teddy Bridgewater,
right.
And you could be 2 seed in the NFC.
But it's easy for us to say, oh, they're an offensive-minded team, right? They're created around offense.
Yeah.
The defense is over the last few years. What have they talked about in New Orleans that's helped Drew Brees maintain now? Got a defense. He doesn't have to worry about going 40 for 40. So to me, the Saints have transitioned from a defensive-minded team, even though the head coach is what? Offensive-minded. The defense, when you play the Saints, you get bludgeoned. Yeah. And then the offense, hey, they can take some chances with Kamara and Drew Brees, but to me, that's separating them. In Carolina, vicious defense too.
Oh, I know, yeah. Dwayne Brumlow agrees with you about the whole coaching thing, that if you were ever to make a coaching change, Dwayne says NFL experience is a must. Here's what I'm going to say, though, Dwayne. You can Google this for yourself. Former college head coaches compared to NFL assistants. The college coaches do better in that comparison in terms of their NFL success than you might think. I'll let you Google that on your own, but they actually do a little bit better than you might think. Dwayne Coleman also upset with Matt Ryan, saying, hey, Matt Ryan, you get to the 30-yard line, then the defense tightens up. That's when Ryan struggles after that.
What's up with that?
Tell me about your thoughts. Tell me your thoughts on Ryan all the way around.
My thoughts on Ryan is that he's a good quarterback, but I think he needs all his components working literally perfectly to be successful. Mm-hmm. I think the year he won MVP, everything was perfect. And as I'm saying, he's not the quarterback that's going to make plays with his legs. He's not going to be a quarterback that buys time in the pocket with his arms. I just don't think he's that kind of quarterback. I think he's a good quarterback. He's not in the elite category, which has been debated for years here. He's not elite. He's a good quarterback.
So you let me put him, because right now it's not even debatable. Matt Ryan's not playing an elite level right now. But could he still be an elite quarterback? Is he still an elite quarterback if you give him the quick hit offense? If you give him I hate to keep going back to it, like one of these college-style coaches is going to bring to this league. You put the receivers out there. You put Ryan, who's a good decision maker, in a quick strike offense. You don't need the mobility, because I hate to tell you this. Look at the quarterbacks who've won Super Bowls. It's not exactly in recent years that the runaround guys are necessarily the ones that are winning the Super Bowls. You know what I'm saying? So it's not like that's a prerequisite for winning in this league. But you give Ryan the quick strike offense. Don't make him stand there and hold it, because he didn't have time.
Hashtag for Lincoln. What's our hashtag now?
I got stinking for Lincoln right here.
Matter of fact, we need to go ahead and get Lincoln. You are wanting Lincoln Riley.
No, it's not even so much I want Riley. I just want somebody that'll do what Riley does, which is put a quarterback in a position to succeed. If Lincoln Riley can get Jalen Hurts to throw the ball all over the yard the way that he is now, there's no telling what he can do with Matt Ryan.
He's doing it against New Mexico State.
That's certainly true.
Are you kidding me?
That's certainly true.
He's doing it. Who's he doing it against?
Yeah.
Let me see what Jalen Hurts does against your boys, the Dogs. Look, he can argue with that. Let's see what he does against them Dogs. So if he plays them Dogs, what are you gonna do?
But no, I understand what you're saying.
I'm just bugging.
No, I understand what you're saying, but when you got 3 quarterbacks in a row who are playing the way this is, and I know it comes across like I'm saying it's Lincoln Riley or bust. I'm actually not. What I am saying is it's better offense for Matt Ryan or bust, because this is your identity for like the next 3 years at least. That's, you got more years of Julio Jones in his prime. You got more years of Matt Ryan in his prime. And one way or another, that's what your wagon is hitched to. For every fan, for every Falcon front office person, for every whatever. Your wagon is hitched to Ryan throwing the ball to these receivers. You got to find somebody who can make that work. And right now, that's to me the most troubling part of this. You can be bad on defense, still win the Super Bowl. We've seen some relatively defenses win the Super Bowl, but you got to find a way to get to that 30.
So we're getting Lincoln Riley. Guess what's the next thing we had to do? You can't keep Matt Ryan. Every quarterback you talked about is a guy who can run. Baker Mayfield, he's efficient running the ball, right? He can run. You look at the guy in Arizona, he can run. Kyler Murray, right? And you look at Jalen Hurts, they can run. So to me, a lot of these offenses now in the NFL, look who they're built around. Look at Kansas City. Look at all the teams who have even Carson Wentz, for God's sake. He can run.
He's a good runner.
He can run. So look at all the guys.
But I don't think that running is a prerequisite. Now, obviously, you'd love to have a quarterback who does everything, a 5-tool player, right?
They're doing RPOs though. If your quarterback does an RPO, I watched the Falcons do an RPO when Matt Ryan can't run. You know he can't.
But one way or another, this is your guy. He's not going anywhere. The big.
You're right.
You spent $750 million on offense. It's not. Roughly speaking.
No, I get it.
Roughly speaking.
It feels that way.
It certainly feels that way. These are your guys. This is who you're going to war with for the next couple of years. You got to find somebody who can push those buttons. You just got to. Or if it's these guys, if it's the current staff that can do it, they got to start doing it. But the thing that, of all the stuff that's the most troubling for me is the fact that this team is not scoring points at the level it's supposed to be scoring points.
And you're right. One of the things I didn't like yesterday was the the dynamics of what they were running. It seemed like I watched, they were running 4 deep a lot, just stretching downfield. They had underneath, they'd have Austin Hooper running, shallow drag routes, Julio going deep. They were covering him over top. Cover 6, they were basically playing everybody over back. And that's what that is for our viewer standpoint. But the Falcons, to me, they got to run shorter, quicker routes. Matt Ryan doesn't have the kind of time, but they got to figure out a way, because they're not the only team with a star receiver that they have to get the ball to. Yeah, they got to.
It's a salary cap league. When you spend as much money as they've spent, now they've also drafted 2 first-round picks, and some of that's about injury and whatnot. But when you've got struggles with your offensive line, you can't just wave the white flag. I mean, you got to find a way to scheme around them. You just got to. No one's got all pros at every position. You got to find a way to scheme around it.
It's time to stop making excuses for these cats. You got to make it happen.
Yeah.
I don't care who's on the offensive line. But you understand what I'm saying? This is what I'm going to say every week. Julio Jones and Matt Ryan, they need to be on 95% of the time. Mm-hmm. If you're the former MVP and you're worthy of the $100 million, yes. And Julio Jones, I'm not trying to hear, they doubled me over the top. Well, maybe at the end of the day, you guys got to figure it out, get together. All you guys are veterans. Mm-hmm. To me, this is somewhat ridiculous that we're talking about this every week. You need to be on. You know what I'm saying? Austin Hooper should not be the number 1 receiver. Right now for the Falcons, Austin Hooper is the number 1 receiver and option for the Atlanta Falcons. And if anyone says otherwise, I will say the eye in the sky don't lie, put on the film. That should never happen. Mm-hmm. Matter of fact, he shouldn't even be number 2. Where's Ridley at? Should even be number 3. He should be number 3, Sanu number 4. When you look at it right then, instantly there's a question mark about the play calling and Dirk Cutter.
Let me let you hear Matt Ryan after the game from yesterday. His assessment of kind of where things are at the moment as the Falcons quarterback.
Usually it comes down to all 11 of us executing and finishing our plays and winning our one-on-one matchups. And, I've played football for a long time, from, basically the time I started playing to right now. It's about winning your one-on-one matchups. And, across the board, we haven't done a good enough job of that.
So obviously right now, Ryan's not happy with the execution. He's obviously not happy to be in a situation where you're having to have these kinds of conversations. And certainly, listen, for as upset as our audience is about the way the Falcons played, the one thing that you can say as a former player is for Ryan and for Julio and for anybody on the defense side of the ball, they're sicker about this than anybody else.
Oh, yeah.
Their reputation's on it's their reputations on the line. They're pros. They're committed to this. So it seems at least fair to say, and you can hear it in Ryan's voice there, that obviously no one's sicker about the way this team's played than the players themselves.
No, you're exactly right. And I respect Matt Ryan being a pro. I respect Julio, those guys. Even Dan Quinn, in this situation, what are you going to say?
Right.
What are you going to do? Come out and start, acting Rex Ryan-ish, cussing and all that kind of stuff? No. So they are professional. But it's a bad feeling. No one wants to lose. No one wants to have bad plays. And like Desmond Trufant, as much as I'm sitting here evaluating him, he's the one on the field. And you can imagine. This not only, let me just tell you this too. This doesn't just affect the players, this is the families, guys. Yeah. This is all the people that equipment, man. This is everybody in the families. When you get beat like this, believe it or not, when your kids go to school the next day, I've seen it. I've lived it. When your kids go to school, it just don't stop for the players. It's a culture. It's a lifestyle for these families, so it affects everyone.
Yeah, I think that's really well said from a guy that would certainly know. It's AJC Falcons News Now, sponsored by Miller Lite. My name is Brandon Adams. It's the former Atlanta Falcon, Chuck Smith. We're glad to have you with us. We wish the conversation was obviously better today. Not a lot of good things to talk about after the Falcons lost to the Tennessee Titans, but we're glad to give a platform for Falcons fans to sign off and for us to have a chance to interact with all of you as well. And, of course, you've been coming to the AJC for your Falcons coverage for a long time. The best way to get the most in-depth Falcons coverage is to become an AJC subscriber. And when you do so, as a special thank you gift to you, this really cool Falcons-branded cooler. But you got to go to the website, subscribe.ajc.com/Falcons News Now. Subscribe.ajc.com/Falcons News Now. E-paper daily, e-paper plus Sunday delivery, 7-day print, which is the daily AJC e-paper. Of course, you can get all your Atlanta news now there as well from the AJC. But for the best Falcons coverage, become an AJC subscriber at subscribe.ajc.com/Falcons News Now. Okay, I am going to roll through a lot of these we are going to roll through a lot of these week 4 scores in a second. Before that, though, let's give people a chance to sound off a little bit more. We've got a lot of good comments coming in, and I want to give people a chance to say what they want to say. Let's see what else we got here. Stephen Shook says, how do we beat the Eagles? And so, Stephen, here's where I kind of feel a little bit dumb, although I don't take back what I said. I went into Sunday, and I explained this on our Friday show. For those of you checking out on Monday, you should come back and be with us on Friday as well, 1 p.m. same time. I said on Friday, part of the reason why I thought Atlanta was going to beat Tennessee is because all of a sudden that Eagles win looks better. I mean, they go to Lambeau, tough place to play on Thursday night. One of the, I would say, along with probably the Houston-New Orleans game, one of the two best games of the year was Philly and Green Bay on Thursday night. Eagles emerged from that game. Honestly, I came in here and sat in our studio on Friday for the show feeling a little better about Atlanta. I mean, was this just a banged-up Eagles team? Was this just Aguilar dropping the football? I mean,
all that, but the Falcons got turnovers. Simple. When you win a turnover battle, you have a chance to win the game. What the Falcons had 3 interceptions, 4 turnovers. It was simply the turnovers. It didn't hurt that you have Jeffries out there, but to me, that's a cop-out. The Falcons won the game. They're opportunistic, and the Eagles, it's not the Falcons' fault those guys were injured.
Deandra McGraw, intense comment in our Facebook comment section. Deandra says, she says, all I see people here is slandering the quarterback, the only one that ever gave us hope, and turning their back on him. So Deandra feels like some people are being too hard on Matt Ryan right now. And Deandra, I understand where you're coming from on that. I think this is one of those issues where, emotions for fans are going to be at a fever pitch coming off a game like this. And are some fans going to say some things they probably don't mean and probably will take back as soon as Wednesday rolls around? There's probably some of that going on here. And, I understand where Deandra comes from that, one way or another, the Falcons' nucleus is going to be what it is. Ryan, the receivers, a couple of those names right there. But listen, on a day like this, I do get the other part of Falcons fans who say, hey, there is no one that's going to be spared from Tell the Truth Monday on a day like this, not even Ryan himself.
Yeah, it's the most scrutinizing position in football, the quarterback, because you make the most money. You handle the ball 99.9% of the time. So, the eye in the sky is on you. But to me, it's part of the deal.
What I can't agree with, though, is our buddy Luke Anthony Billingsley Jr. in our Facebook comment section says, Ryan played a great game. It's not a Ryan issue. Ultimately, the Falcons' biggest issue might not be Ryan, but he didn't play great yesterday. And really, he really hasn't had a great season. I mean, and I don't really know what it is. My assumption is maybe the offensive scheme is just not quite right for him right now or something along those lines. It's kind of over my head to even understand this. But Ryan through 4 games has not been the Matt Ryan we've come to know and expect, at least in my mind.
Well, he looks, number one, like I said, he looks a little nervous in the pocket because yesterday he was waiting. There were times where he was breaking down and there was an opportunity for him to get rid of the ball. And that's what happens when you're limited as a runner, B. But look, Matt Ryan, he struggled this year. He hasn't been the quarterback that won the MVP. He's not even close. But I'm not going to make an excuse for Matt Ryan, but I am going to give this fact. There's no running game. 0. The scheme, Matt's not calling the plays. So to me, the scheme's not helping Matt, right? Yeah. The defense isn't exactly holding people every game, but to me, there's no running game. Matt Ryan is at his best when he has play action pass. To me, that has made him look even worse because he's dropping back every time. There are bullets coming at him every time, and they know exactly where the target is.
Eric Solomon says they need to get it together. Matt Ryan seems lost. The offense as a whole kind of seemed lost a little bit yesterday. Stephen Shook says that he's actually booked his travel. He's going to the game in Houston on Sunday. Early preview. That seems like a tough spot for Atlanta right now.
They can win any given Sunday. I mean, I know that's
you don't give me any given Sunday.
It's like
if all we got left is any given Sunday, then things have gotten worse than I thought. If the only thing we got left is that.
That came out naturally, but it wouldn't surprise me if the Falcons went out there and won. It wouldn't.
Luke Billingsley, I do agree with this. There's not a thing about Devontae Freeman I like better than Ito right now. Not a thing. Not a thing.
That's a heck of a. Let me ask you: has there been a least talked about position or story on the Falcons as Devontae Freeman? I mean, no one's talking about it.
You hear it pregame. Fans want to see this team run the ball more. I mean, Ryan threw for 400 yesterday. I don't know. I have to look at the play-by-play. It seemed like he threw the ball on every play in the second half.
He did.
It seemed like he threw it on every single one. The running game got subtracted from this game. I'm talking about it fell off a cliff. Right. There was no chance to run the ball at all.
Let me tell you the worst play of the game. I'm just telling you the Falcons now. If you're the Tennessee Titans, so check this out. It was 4th and 1, right? The first time they went for it. This was a bad call. They ran the ball, but here's the mistake. They ran a counter. Mm-hmm. They pulled the guard. You got Casey and them, and these guys, listen, the Tennessee Titans, they were coming off that ball, I mean, like some hungry hippos. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Like old school, right? Most kids won't understand that. But look, they were coming off the ball.
If the kids today aren't playing hungry hippos, they're like, that's better than any video game.
But B, they pulled the guard. that's a flat block. And so what happened was they got knocked in about. Freeman had no chance. To me, that was a call you have to, get back. But to me now, you're going to start seeing the Falcons when it's 4th and 1, they're going in 3rd and 1. They're going to throw the ball because they're not physically showing that they're strong enough to handle the big defense.
James Davis has a good question. You're a good person to answer this. He says, can you explain why Quinn won't bring any blitz pressure? I mean, what do you think about that?
Because he is who he is. Dan Quinn built his reputation on, being a cover 3, cover 2 team that plays zone, rush 4.
Yeah.
So I think Dan is also showing he's rushing, like sometimes he's rushing 5 guys with Vic and Tack and having a 5-man front and a 3-4. But you are who you are. Mm-hmm. I mean, Dan Quinn is a zone playing coach. He's a D coordinator. That's how he made his his reputation.
Jamie Stringer says play calling absolutely terrible. Not happy with that play calling right now. What else is going on here? Joanne Johnson says as long as the Falcons do not have an offensive line, they will not have a running game. The problem though is this is a salary cap league, and this is not. I do love college football. You can recruit a 5-star at every position in college football, right? You can get 85 stars.
Well, according to the experts, he's a 5-star. Don't make me get in that. That's a whole nother show.
Right, but what I'm saying though is like
I got you.
You're not limited as much in college when it comes to talent acquisition. The NFL, you got a hard cap.
Yeah.
You cannot exceed it. So you got to find a way to work around some deficiencies. You can't have 11 All-Pros. That'll never happen. By the time you build up one area, another area is starting to subside a little bit. You just got to find a way to work around what you have. This offensive line is what it is. Now, I know
but they got
the Lindstrom injury hurt you bad right there. I do get all of that, and McGrary's dealt with an injury there too. And for a while there, like yesterday, he lost Mack at least for a minute there as well. But you got to work around this offensive line. I mean, it's just what you got.
I agree with you. I agree with everything you're just saying. Falcons got enough pieces on this line. You done signed Sombrero. You got Jake Matthews, and we forget to talk about him. He got a big contract too.
Yeah.
You got Alex Mack, who's highly paid. We got more components on this offensive line than most teams do. Mm-hmm. So whether they're playing up to their contracts, but to me, their stature, as we know it, those guys should be playing a lot better.
So Anthony Polo Down Deadman says, we're not consistent one Sunday. We look like superstars. The next game, we look like the Little League. Here's the problem, though, Anthony. We said this on Friday, too, and I said this in response to another commenter. I understand what you're saying. Unfortunately, though, at 4 games, Falcons are pretty consistent. They come out of the gate slow.
Kind of like preseason.
Slow. They come out of the gate slow. They build the depths in the first half, and they do in the second half. They try to do something about that. Now, some games, like the Indianapolis game, they were working pretty good and almost had a chance to come back in that game. Lifeless in their own building yesterday. The Minnesota game was a total whitewash. Had no chance of winning that. So, unfortunately, I have to disagree with Anthony and say, after 4 games, this team is pretty consistent. Don't expect much from them in the first half.
Yeah, because I just said something about preseason. When those guys got in the game, this is what happened. I remember in preseason when the veterans got in, Q was saying, we got to stop the penalties. When the guys got in, the little bit they did play. But you are who you are. Mm-hmm. The Falcons aren't going to change on defense. They're not going to start sending blitzes. They're not going to become the New England Patriots.
Yeah.
You got the personnel you got, offensively you got who you got, and you are who you are. It's going to take a lot of Falcons. It's going to take those men in the room. If they're going to pull themselves out, it's going to be them. It's not going to be a change of scheme.
Joanne has a good comment. Joanne Johnson again, because we were talking about the offensive line before. She brought that up. She says, if I was an owner, I'd take a mediocre quarterback and spend my money on the offensive line. Now, this is a topic we don't have time to get into right now. But when you go, let's say you're Seattle prior to giving Russell Wilson a big contract. When you're paying your quarterback $700,000, whatever it was they're paying him for a while, it does give you a lot of salary cap dollars to do a lot of other stuff.
Yeah, it does.
Now they pay him big dollars, and it's going to be a lot worse. But when you don't have a $30 million quarterback, you got a lot of freedom for how you can spend some money.
You do. And
I'm not saying that's what the Falcons should have done, but it is a fact of life.
I mean, but they drafted 2. I know one's injured. I know Lindstrom's injured. You got McGarry who's been playing. But the Falcons, what's the kid who got hurt yesterday? Brown? Was it Jamon Brown? Brown got hurt. He was paid.
Yeah.
Those guys came in with reputations that they're going to help. So it's hard for me to understand why we have to go back. You got Sombrero. He was paid. He was expected. Yeah. He's an upgrade for what some of the guys they had. So, I mean, to me, the offensive line, it's just about gelling together.
A couple other comments. Hasheem Webb says, we're not going to have Matt Ryan for long, or at least not forever. It's time to rise up around him and give him a chance to end his legacy on a good note. I actually agree with Hasheem almost completely on that. That one way or another, this is your guy. And the things you have around him, that's your nucleus. And for the next few years, 3 to 4 years, whether it be offensive coordinator working with Quinn, whether it be offensive-minded head coach in place of Quinn, whatever. It's time to get serious. You got a relatively new stadium. You got a nucleus, in the prime of their career, moving towards the later stages of the prime of their career, it is go time, showtime right now. Take advantage of the years you have of these guys left. Whatever it takes from a coaching standpoint, you cannot squander the remaining years of Ryan. You cannot squander the remaining years of Julio Jones. And I don't think it's too late. I don't think it's too late at all. And it can be debated if it's possible to do this under Quinn, or if you need a more offensive-minded head coach, that's fine. But the nucleus that this team has in place, it is not too late to win with this group. But you can't screw around and waste a bunch of time with guys that can't get the best out of them. You just can't.
Well, I think what the Falcons have to do, got to be perfect. Matt Ryan has to have everything perfect for him to thrive. He has to have the offensive line doing their best, running game. He needs the receivers to make incredible catches. And the one thing he's shown, he needs the kind of coordinator that's going to put him in position to win. I agree with you. We don't need to squander his last few years, but I agree also that the Falcons need to make it perfect because he can't scramble.
Yeah.
Those kind of things. So it's going to have to be a perfect situation for Matt Ryan. But I will say this again, also to the later years. I don't care how great of a player you were for an organization. If it comes down to winning the Super Bowl and you happen to get rid of someone, got to go. To me, that's where teams get in trouble. The loyalty part when it comes to when you can figure out and fix a situation, because I think that's part of the challenge now. Loyalty sometime in the coaching staff will get you doing too much.
We're running a little bit late here. I do want to look on the rest of the league for a moment. Let's check in on some of these Week 4 scores around the NFL. And we touched on this earlier. The big story here is the NFC South did the Falcons no favors yesterday.
Balling.
First of all, Baltimore kind of comes back to life a little bit yesterday. Cleveland maybe still alive here, at least for right now. Kind of an interesting development. Buffalo may be for real. Did a good job against New England yesterday after getting off to a 3-0 start. Buffalo may be a little bit for real.
I like the Bills. Great defense.
Kansas City stays hot. Boy, 30 a game. How nice must that be? Carolina, you mentioned the Panthers defense. The fact that you're not seeing Allen Wilt right now, I think kind of speaks to this as well. That's actually a really big win over Houston, I think. A very big win. The Houston team eventually, I think, wins the AFC South. Now, Gardner Minshew may have something to say about that. But to go get that win over the Texans, that's a good job by Carolina.
That is. No Cam Newton. Whew, that's big.
Yeah, for sure. Raiders over the Colts. Some of the sharper-minded gamblers were kind of in on that yesterday. Chargers take care of the Miami Dolphins. At this point in time, you got to say that we are definitely in a very realistic conversation of the Dolphins being the worst modern era team. Worse than the 0-16 Browns, 0-16 Lions. They may be on their way to being the worst of them all. Are we really buying Danny Dimes right here, 24-3 over the Redskins? Is Daniel Jones for real?
I think he's the real deal, especially where a young guy is right now in his career. I think he's just what New York needs.
Seattle, Arizona, you see that. Seattle, LA on Thursday is actually a pretty interesting game. Tampa Bay over the Rams, 55-40. Here's a cool stat. First 55-40 final in NFL history. That was the first game to ever end 55-40 in NFL history. Chicago over Minnesota.
Interesting defense.
Well, I'll tell you what.
Chicago.
You bring in Chase Daniel, the former Missouri quarterback, in place of Mitch Trubisky. You really notice no difference whatsoever.
No.
That's not a great sign for Trubisky. If you don't come to work one day and no one knows you're gone, that's not a great situation. That's Trubisky right now for the Chicago Bears. Let's do a couple of these quick scores we'll get out. I'm all over the Gardner Minshew bandwagon right now. Love the Jags, 26-24. And then, once again, New Orleans. Wrong team was favoring this game to begin with. Dallas came in as a 3-point favorite. But this was going to be Saints all the way, I felt like.
I love me some Saints. You know, I play Madden with my kids. Rolling with them Saints. They're pretty good. I'm sorry, Falcon fans. I'm sorry.
Kamara on the video game is pretty fun.
Yes, he is.
And then tonight you get Cincinnati at Pittsburgh. I said before I wouldn't watch this in your backyard. Now, I guess Pittsburgh's got a little something on the line here, but I wouldn't watch this game in your backyard.
Yeah, they're second worst defense in the league. But Steelers, too bad.
All right, so Falcons fans, it is what it is right now. Not a great situation. And for Quinn, it's going to have to get better, or the kinds of conversations that happened here today, they're going to only intensify further. The one thing, though, is for every move that's made in Flowery Branch this week in terms of getting ready for the Texans on Sunday, D led the entire AJC staff. They'll have all of that for you. Check them out at AJC.com for more on that. And thanks for being here as part of AJC Falcons News Now, sponsored by Miller Lite. And, of course, Miller Lite is the official beer of the Atlanta Falcons. And a great choice is you're watching a little Monday Night Football tonight, for instance. So we appreciate Miller Lite being a part of what we're doing here each and every Monday and Friday. Speaking of that, we're back Friday at 1 p.m. getting ready for the Falcons and the Texans. We'll talk about that then and talk to you then as well. Thanks for a great spirited round of comments, even if the subject matter wasn't all that happy. Y'all have a great day. Thanks for being a part of AJC Falcons News Now, sponsored by Miller Lite.